Welcome to Will and Bobby Know Everything. I am Mike Palmer. With me is Will.
Hello.
And Bobby.
Hello.
And today's episode is called A Robot Pooping Batteries.
Booyah.
It's a lot nicer than it sounds, actually.
It's exactly like what it sounds.
The episode was nice.
That's true. All right. I really don't have anything. There's a lot like...
Did you ever get me coffee? You ever get coffee?
I don't think you ever answered whether or not you wanted coffee.
Did we ever have coffee?
No. I could probably use coffee.
Oh, I answered.
Well, I didn't hear it, okay?
Honey.
Okay, listen, hun. You did not answer.
You busted my balls,
Listen,
Hans.
I don't need this from you.
Is that a quote from Die Hard? You busted my balls, Hans.
You twisted my balls, Hans.
I saw the new Die Hard trailer.
Right?
Before Skyfall. Yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You saw Skyfall?
Skyfall is awesome.
I've heard it's fucking sweet.
Good, yeah. I heard it's not as good as Casino Royale.
I remember Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is awesome. I heard that the villain in Skyfall was awesome.
Yes,
that's what I've heard.
It's Javier Bardem.
Yeah, but then they said that they didn't really finish the story.
Yeah, he's got a very interesting beginning. Like, he's a very interesting character, but then like they kind of just like give up after they like expose him, and then they're just kind of like, oh, all right, well, now he's just a Bond villain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't care about spoilers for the movie, do you?
No, it's already been spoiled for me too.
Has it really?
Yeah.
I read the entire plot on Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. Why not just see the movie at that point?
Because I didn't know if I was going to get around to it. There are a lot of movies that I've gone like, oh, I'm definitely going to see that, and I have not made it to theaters, so I just started reading them. I know I'll see it eventually, but whatever. I heard, and then reading the plot, I agree, that the movie sounds like it's basically The Dark Knight. And that Javier Bardem is basically the Joker.
They said that the director pulled a ton of inspiration from The Dark Knight.
But even in terms of, like, plot structure, that, like, at one point, Javier Bardem, I guess, even pretends to be a cop at one point.
He does.
And he intentionally gets himself arrested at one point.
Yeah.
And so that he can, like, trick him from, like, the inside, which is exactly what the Joker did.
So he just took the story of The Dark Knight.
Yeah, and made it a James Bond movie.
So that's why it's so good.
Genius.
That's why it's such a good movie.
Well, I guess the main difference is that it's missing Two-Face then. Like, it's missing
There's no
whole
Two-Face
part.
guy?
Yeah. It's like that. I can definitely see that kind of, like, dual reading. But... it's a really interesting movie because, like, thematically, it brings in this really cool, like, thing that I think the first two Daniel Craig Bond movies kind of, like, missed, which is that it's, like, reaching out to the old James Bond movies, and they're actually, like, there's a whole dialogue throughout the whole film of, like, old versus new technology, and, like, because Javier Bardem's character is, like, a hacker, and he's like a tech wizard. Okay. And James Bond is like, he's more of like a hand-to-hand kind of like out in the field kind of
thuggish
guy. And like
tough guy.
The subplot that's running, there's like, Bond versus Bardem, and then there's also like MI6, the agency, is like under fire from the British government because it's like supposedly dated because like they don't need spies anymore because because of technology. So you have these two like old versus new things, and it all like comes together toward the end, where he's like, oh, we need a car because all of the other cars that we have are tracked. All our agent cars are tracked because they all have like trackers in them, and they needed something that was off the grid. So he like goes into a garage in London, and it's like an old Bond like 70s BMW.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's fucking.
And it's like off the grid, and it's got the ejector seat and the guns in the headlights.
Oh, that's totally awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
There's I don't know how many people know this, but I thought it was pretty sweet. You probably know about it. I'm sure you do. You definitely know about it, Bob.
What?
There's a subreddit called Fan Theories.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite, like, I mean, you can go there and like usually like the popular ones are at the top anyway.
Yeah.
But one of them that people constantly go back and forth about is the Bond theory that James Bond is not the name of the individual like from birth who is doing all the events in the movies. It's a code name.
Yeah.
So basically that like once you reach a particular level, your code name is 007 James Bond. And that's like you're like
fucks that up.
Exactly. That's what like because evidently they go to like Bond's childhood home.
Oh, okay.
And like that his father like Nathaniel Bond used to live there, and so like he is James Bond, and now people are trying to find a way to make the theory work by saying like, all right, well, it's supposed to be that he's the first one, so he's the first one, and then after that they honor him by having everyone else called him.
Well, I honestly trying to reach for anything.
Can it please keep being real? It seemed so fun.
I think that was like a cool part about it being different characters. It's like what movie was that where, because of Heath Ledger died, they used all like the other characters?
Oh yeah, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah. And how Heath Ledger died in the middle of the filming, and so he decided to basically, or the director, I don't remember who directed it, said like, okay, we'll just get a bunch of different actors to play him in the movie, and it's like Johnny Depp and Colin Farrell and
Orlando Bloom. They all play the same character.
They all play the same guy, but like,
that's weird,
in different like dimensions or
that's pretty cool.
So that basically every dimension that Heath Ledger's character goes into, he looks different because it was his final movie and he didn't get to finish it. They also said for the new James Bond movie that's something they were going to do when they go to like his childhood home, and this sounds like it would have been so annoying, and so it's probably a really good thing they didn't do it. There's a caretaker, there's a guy that like manages the estate, and they were going to try to get Sean Connery to play him. It would have been fun for a moment, and then you'd be like, why'd they do this? It's kind of weird to go like the original James Bond, why don't we make him like a crazy old man in the new James Bond? That's a little strange. I mean,
the character is not so far off, the one that they choose, because he's an old Scottish guy, and he's like sort of out of touch, but like not, like he's definitely with it.
Oh, really?
And he's like, they're in a couple battle sequences, and he's pretty handy with a shotgun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. It couldn't have been Sean Connery.
Also, who knows what the fuck Sean Connery looks like now? Because he's been retired for like.
Exactly the same.
I think I know what he looks like.
Same? Really?
Yeah.
What if he could look horrible?
He's looked like an old man for the past 40 years.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. Actually, yeah, that's weird. Like the movie The Rock.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a really old man.
Since the James Bond films, he looked young in James Bond, and then
since like
something happened.
What am I thinking of? Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like, he's looked old.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And that was in, like, the late 80s, early 90s.
You're probably exactly right. I've never seen one of the Sean Connery James Bond movies, but I do know that evidently, like, 30 years after he stopped being James Bond and other actors had taken over the role, some company, I don't know what, wanted to make a James Bond movie. And I think that the James Bond license was, like, a common license back then, like anyone could make a James Bond movie. So all in 1 year, like 3 James Bond movies came out. And one of them was like Roger Moore, who'd played him like 8 times at that point. Another one was Sean Connery, the original. But they were 2 completely different movies by different companies in the same year. What the fuck is this?
That's weird. I had no idea.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing as if like right now they came out with like 2 Batman movies in the same year. Completely different.
Well, I mean,
hold on. You're popping a lot.
Do you want one of these?
I don't know what to tell you.
Bring the mic away from your mouth a little further.
China man.
No, like bring it down away from your mouth.
No.
No. Yeah, try that. Boom.
How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. So, yeah, what do you think of that, boys?
I don't... But you were going to say something.
Yeah,
sorry.
We were saying something about the Bond movies coming out at the same time.
Yeah, as if
I feel like that happened with Spider-Man. I mean, I don't know if... Like, I don't actually know how long ago Spider-Man 3 came out, but I had no interest in this new Spider-Man movie.
I guess?
Probably 2006, 7, yeah.
God, 5 years, and it still felt way too soon for a new franchise to me.
Agreed, but I've heard that that's a good movie.
I heard it's good too, but I still am just like, I don't have the attention.
It was all right, my view was kind of skewed because I fell asleep for a lot of it. For about the first hour, I guess. I fell asleep, and I woke up, and the thing that I woke up to was Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker violently making out, but it looked so corny, and it looked like very gross. I was like, oh, what am I watching? What is this? Yeah, what is this? And then from then on, it was just straight corny. Oh, this is annoying. And Dennis Leary was in it, and I was like, oh, great. I hate Dennis Leary already.
Are you fucking kidding me? Dennis Leary's awesome. He was great in that show Rescue Me.
Never seen it.
Went on for 6 years. It was a really good show, actually.
I don't care.
Man.
Dennis Leary
fought a fire.
He should be named Fireman.
Fireman Leary.
Fireman Leary. Old Fireman Leary down the road.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. Other fan theories that I've seen on Reddit that are awful are usually just like, I gotta hope that they're like 13-year-old kids that are going like, theory. The Halo universe takes place in the exact same universe as Skyrim. Discuss.
Well, actually,
what are you talking about?
Someone said...
What are you talking about?
Fuck, what was it? Someone said that a game that just recently came out is a prequel to Halo.
Really? Oh,
yeah, and everyone was like, "No, it's not. It makes no sense."
I mean, I kind of used to do stuff like that when I was a kid, just kind of like coming up with like
just imagining like a
unified universe of all your favorite things somehow.
Right.
So you like stretch to go like, all right, the Die Hard universe is the same as Indiana Jones. It's just further in the future.
Yeah,
and you just like try to stretch to make those heroes. Maybe they could meet.
I read
this is weird. I just remember. Did you know that evidently Han Solo and Indiana Jones met in an official piece of George Lucas merchandise?
What?
Yeah.
What the hell was
George Lucas, like, you know how he has to approve the use of all his characters?
Right.
So there's a storyline where Han Solo and
it was in a comic book, right?
Yeah, it was a comic book. And it came out like 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Han Solo and Chewbacca are flying around in a big old spaceship. Woo-wee. And
Chewbacca is
and they go through a little wormy hole, and they end up in like a jungle, and they're like, "Oh my god, what is this? Am I back? Are we back
Dagobah?
on the? Are we on Dagobah? What is this? Are we back on Endor?
I think Dagobah is a system.
Is
that right?
Yeah.
Well, now we feel like complete assholes.
Fuck,
you're a loser,
you guys.
I'm
going home.
Okay. So they crash land, and then the story cuts, and all of a sudden it's Indiana Jones walking through a jungle with Short Round, who was in the second movie, who sucks, the Okie Dokie Potatoes guy.
Right.
And they find
arguably the best part of that movie, though.
The potatoes joke?
Yeah.
You might be right, actually, and I hate that joke.
Okie Dokie, Dr. Jones.
It might be the best part. That or the Dan Aykroyd cameo.
What did Dan Aykroyd do in that movie?
He's in the background of a shot with a big fake mustache on, and no one draws any attention to him whatsoever. And his one line is going like, "Yeah, I got an airplane for you." That's it.
Here you are, sir.
He literally like plays like a background character part. It's not really a cameo.
So he's just a walk on.
It's just there. Yeah.
Weird.
Really weird. There's no focus on him at all.
Yeah.
So.
Was he an established actor at that point?
Oh, yeah. He's been famous forever. He was one of the original Saturday Night Live guys.
I should have known. I just can't line up the years with Indiana Jones for some reason.
But so, Indiana Jones and Short Round are walking through the jungle, and they find a spaceship. And they go inside, and they find Han Solo's bow and arrow riddled corpse sitting in the captain's seat.
Oh.
He was murdered, and he's a skeleton wearing a vest and a shirt. And Indiana Jones is like, boy, I'd hate to be that guy.
He doesn't say, like, what's this spaceship?
Nope, not worried about it. Not worried about it at all. More interested in making jokes about a corpse. But then they cut, and this I actually kind of really liked. There's just a single frame, and it's the jungle. And up in, like, the upper limb of a tree of some sort, Chewbacca is perched and just watching. Mm-hmm. And I actually kind of like that, because evidently there's something... I mean, I don't know much about the Star Wars universe, but evidently, I guess, Wookiees live for hundreds of years. Yeah. So now there's just, like, Chewbacca just lives in a jungle in, like...
He's Bigfoot.
Ancient Mesopotamia or something. I don't know.
There was a fan theory that I really liked about Back to the Future. It was that... Well, I didn't mean to say I don't really like it. It was interesting if it were true, you know?
Yeah.
But there's no grounds for it being
Biff's
true.
Going to come to the future and hang out with you?
Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
So
it's more of a dream you had.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of that?
I love it.
Prove that sports with you / Biff.
No, it was that the flux capacitor is not what makes time travel possible, like what Doc Brown says, but it's what eliminates paradoxes in time travel.
Oh.
So that's why in the movie the DeLorean breaks down all the time, but that's because it's a shitty car and it breaks down all the time. But people are saying that was actually the flux capacitor stopping the car from working at any moment that there would be a paradox. So it would eliminate the idea of paradoxes.
But the movie is filled with
there's a
borderline
lot of
paradox.
Well, no, that's what they're saying, that if it were a true paradox that would unravel the universe, the flux capacitor would stop it. And so the flux capacitor isn't really like sentient in that way, but it has a job and it does it. That eliminates paradoxes. And they're saying that at one point it gets tricky, because at one point in the third one, I think, they hide a car they hide the DeLorean in a cave, so that at one point there is a DeLorean somewhere and there are 2 flux capacitors. But then they're saying that Doc Brown takes one out, and like the flux capacitor, like when at some point when he comes back from the future, he destroys the DeLorean because there are 2 flux capacitors in the same universe, and so they cancel each other out, and that it directly causes, like, it sets up in the time stream to have Doc Brown destroy the other one. I don't know. It's really weird.
I have no idea.
It makes no sense.
I'm confused right now.
I know, it makes no sense. And someone drew out the timeline, and they said that it could, because they were saying that at some point, like, they weren't thinking of like movie magic, they were trying to make it relatable to real life, and instead of saying that in the first one, Martin McFly.
Oh, Marty, weird.
And I know in the first Martin one, McFly. Well, it's still his name. Marty has the picture.
Dr. Brown was also there.
Yeah, people call him Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown.
Fuck you, Bob.
I don't call him Dr. Brown.
No one does.
At one point, he has the picture, and it shows him disappearing, as it gets closer to his parents not getting together, as the chances of them not getting together are closer. And people say, like, okay, so it's clear that their time is not instantaneously changed. It ripples.
Yeah.
And when the ripples catch up to you, then you feel the effects. That's why at one point, Biff, after giving himself the almanac in the past, flies back to the future.
Yeah, he has time enough to get to the future,
and it's still
before he disappears.
Before he keels over and disappears, and the future hasn't changed yet.
Right.
Because the ripples haven't happened.
It takes time to change.
Yeah. And that's why also Marty and Doc, when they were leaving the future, it didn't change yet. That's why when they left and went back in time, then it was changed, because they left to a point where the ripples had caught up to change. But then they're saying that, like, well, if you think about it, then if you envision a timeline, and let's say it starts from like 2012 to 2013, that at 2013 you would go back in time exactly 1 year, and then it'd be like a change happens, so time is different. Then in 2013 you'd have to go back 1 year, and it would be this little loop. But they're saying that it would be like ripples, so the perceived effect would be that once a year time completely changes to like
1 year back.
1 year. It's not really that. It would be like time. If you have 2 states, if you go back in time to change it, it would be like time ripples and changes between each state every year.
I see.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I can sort of see.
People are like trying to create like weird theories about this.
Anything with time travel.
At some point, someone said like, none of this is real. Like,
it
none
doesn't
of this
matter.
happened.
Totally made up.
It doesn't matter.
As if like people are like trying to get a PhD in the physics of Back to the Future, which is a made up movie. It was originally going to be a fucking refrigerator that he traveled back in time in, and then he was also going to go back in time. And when he sings "Johnny Be Good," he was going to bring around the rock and roll revolution, like a decade too early or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that was going to say when he gets back to the future, everyone's in love with rock and roll. So like the movie has ebbed and flowed enough that like they didn't even have a concrete idea of what they were making as they were making it. Let alone, like any way to look back on it now.
The moral of the story is that people read too much into things and want to create their own fantasies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, have either of you guys seen the movie Primer?
No, but I heard it was cool. I think I downloaded it and I skipped around in it. So
what's Primer?
It's a really, really indie movie from like 2004 that got pretty big on cults.
It's about time travel, but it's kind of about time travel.
Well, it's a really as realistic a take on time travel as has been done, and it was done for like something like $6,000. Like the budget was like nothing.
A lot of it is just like these 2 guys in a lab.
Yeah,
like
it's a lot of
figuring out their time machine.
It's a lot of like technical jargon that supposedly is like as real as can be.
Yeah,
talking about it's like basically. I mean there's like a chart. It's like almost impossible to truly understand because it's so complicated. And
it's like you never know if like what is real, kind of, because it seems like when you enter it, it seems like you're falling asleep,
Yeah.
Kind of, and then like you're actually going back in time, and then when you're done, you wake up and you come out of the machine again.
Okay.
So it's almost like your consciousness is zoomed back.
Yeah, basically the general theory is that if you spend 6 hours in this like time machine, which is essentially like a refrigerator, it's like a box that you crawl into.
It's like a tight box.
And you spend approximately 6 hours in it. Or you spend as long as you want in it. But that 6 hours you then get back. Like it like stops time within that box.
Yeah.
And then like if you hang out in there for 6 hours, you'll then like come out at the time that it's like 6 hours before you enter. I don't know. It's like a kind of like you buy yourself time by like going in, and then you get whatever time you spent in there.
Okay.
There's a chart that kind of explains it, but it's really...
Is it like... This is going to be really nerdy.
You're allowed.
All right. In Dragon Ball Z...
I just turned you all the way down so we can't hear
you. In Dragon Ball Z...
Yeah.
An alien comes to... Turn me down. An alien comes to...
which alien?
Is it Frieza?
Cell.
Okay.
Oh, Cell, okay.
For anyone who knows who Cell is.
Yeah. He's here to kill everything. And no one's strong enough...
many aliens.
Yes. He's not... No one's strong enough to fight him yet. But there's a hyperbolic time chamber. And so...
That seems to be used whenever anyone comes to Earth.
Yes, because basically no one's ever strong enough for the next big fight.
Plot device.
I know, but it works. So so Goku goes in it. Shut up. And if he spends 24 hours in it from our point of view, like we watch him go in the room, 24 hours pass, he comes out, he has spent about a year in there. Mm-hmm. So he can train for a year and have it only take one day.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like if you go into the box?
It's different.
Not really, because it would be you go into the box, you spend...
Wait, can I just make something clear? I know that because I liked Dragon Ball Z when I was 15. I'm 26, so I don't... Just to make that clear.
That's when I watched it, too.
11 years ago, all right?
Bill.
Just want to make it clear.
Tell the truth.
I love Dragon Ball Z.
I'm hiding my power level right now.
Hey, Bobby, have you ever tried to go Super Saiyan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone YouTube...
Kid tries to go Super Saiyan.
I forget his name.
It's hilarious.
Young bald boy.
Yep.
So funny.
And it works.
Everyone can go Super Saiyan if you believe. And then it's just him. He pulls he rips his shirt off and starts going and screaming. It's so funny.
It's hilarious.
I think he overdubs the music from the show.
I think he does. And then he looks menacingly at the camera as if it worked.
Yeah. I think, and also, it would be like more like if Goku goes into the time chamber and then 24 hours pass. And then it would be Goku has a day before he goes into the time chamber.
Oh, so he walks out a day earlier than when he went in?
Yeah, and then in order to you have to go back in, and then it kind of resets.
Does he have to hide from himself for that 24 hours?
Yeah. That's a huge thing, is that, like, you have to go away and, like, make sure you do nothing, like, nothing...
To impact anything.
Yes, and you just kind of sit there, and what they do, like, the general scheme of the movie ends up becoming that they, like,
Don't they go to a party or something?
Well, originally, they just look at stocks. They just watch stocks.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, they just, like, sit in a room, like, they turn off their phone, and they just have the computer there, and they're just watching the stocks. And then so that 6 hours later or whatever, they'll have the knowledge of what the stocks are going to be. And it's just, like, they're just a day ahead of the stock market, and it becomes a scheme so that they can
interesting.
make money from that. But
then at one point, I remember
it gets kind of crazy.
They go to a party and there's someone shoots somebody, or
there become so many duplicates, and it's really I haven't watched it in a while either. So
I don't know.
But it's a cool movie.
Talk about Dragon Ball Z. You know, at one point, the door to the hyperbolic time chamber was destroyed while they were inside of it.
I know, that is true. They had to fight their way out, but then they were trying to fight their way out, and then Cell got in, I think.
Nope.
Or Majin Buu.
Majin Buu was stuck in there because Gotenks destroyed the door. And then Majin Buu ripped a hole through reality and came back and through the dimensions. Mm-hmm.
I was really into the Cell saga.
Will told me all that last year.
And then Majin Buu showed up, and he is this giant... He looks like Kirby. And he turns people into cookies and eats them.
And ice cream.
Seriously?
That's his horrible plot. And I was like... I remember going like... it's funny to remember back on this, but like... I'd been watching this show for like 2 years, and then that happened. I was like... Oh, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I'd been watching
before
this
that,
it was amazing before.
No, and at some point, and like the Majin Buu lasts for like 100 episodes.
So long.
God.
So long. And even like evidently what was shown here in like America is still only like a fraction of what was originally made in Japan. So like they got like
it's ridiculous
months and months of that man turning people into candy.
Episodes. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen how it ends?
Yeah, he turns into a little boy who's good.
Well, yeah, but there's like he like keeps changing and like splits himself, and then there's an actual man, and then he does. I don't think he changes anybody into cake after that.
Oh no.
No.
He doesn't turn into cake and eat himself?
No. That would be a good plot. Turn myself into cake and then I'm going to eat.
And that didn't take 100 episodes.
Yeah, that takes 2 episodes.
Cake with a mouth.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about Dragon Ball Z anymore.
No, right. I only ever watched the Frieza saga, and then I got really sick of it, and my friends have been telling me that there's a thing called Dragon Ball Z, like, condensed.
Yeah.
Where they just, like... Because the episodes are, like, famously long, where, like, you'd go from commercial break to commercial break without accomplishing anything.
Yes.
And, like, you'd just be, like, charging up for Super Saiyan for, like, a whole episode.
Salad.
Soup and salad. Unlimited soup and salad.
No, now, like, American TV has edited the episodes to make them quick and combine episodes and made them very concise.
Like, to the point where it's, like, you can watch, like, 5 minutes and get as much as you got in, like, a season.
That sucks. Yeah. That's annoying. That's a shame because I spent years then evidently wasting my time.
Could have just waited till you were 25 and now you'd know everything about the motion boot.
I don't know, bullshit. Everything about me from my birth up until about 16, 17 is all a wash. I didn't do anything for 17 years that bears any...
You're not supposed to, though. When do you ever do that?
Well, what kills me...
Overachievers.
What kills me is that I can watch movies that I watched before I was, like, 15 or 16, and, like, I'm watching them, like, as if I've never seen them before. Like, maybe I remember characters, but I'm like, God damn it, I can't even remember, like, what happened in this movie. Like, what was the point of even having
That's the point of childhood, though. That's the point of your childhood, is to fuck around and enjoy yourself, because you're not going to remember it anyway.
And also, I guess, like, find the stuff, because, like, there's so, like, you're born into a world where there are so many things. And, like, especially these days with the internet, it's so hard to focus on something you actually fucking like.
Yeah.
So I guess for 15 years, you're supposed to sift through bullshit until you find something that's interesting and then start diving into it.
But for those 15 years, you're way too young to actually care about anything.
Yeah. Or especially form
or know how important it is.
Yeah. Like, it is really weird that, like, you know, someday I might have a son and, like, spend 5 years taking care of them, and then still, like, at the end of those 5 years, I'm looking at a 5-year-old going, like, nothing I say to you will ever remember. You're not going to remember anything.
You're not going to remember this. You're a child.
Anything.
Your brain isn't
developed. Well, I talked a lot about this, actually, when we were traveling in Europe, because I've been to a lot of the places in Europe that I went to this year when I was younger. And, like, my dad was taking me through Monaco, and he was like, "Oh, do you remember that museum?" And I was like, "No, is it cool?" And he was like, "I took you there when you were, like, 9. And I was like, Sorry,
I was 9.
Sorry, I was a child.
But, you know, he was like, oh, it's so frustrating. And it, you know, really made me rethink, like, you know, do you travel with kids? Do you just take them to Disneyland and then just say, like, all right, forget it? Because it would be really frustrating kind of to do that. It's it's a big investment.
But I think it's also, like, really exciting, or it must be. I mean, I don't have the experience yet of, like, taking a kid and watching them. Because you probably still were, like, really excited by it. It's just not something that you were able to hold on to.
But you still have an understanding in your mind somewhere. You're learning by traveling like that. You're still understanding that, like, there's way more out there than
like, because, like, you could, I guess, like, I could just consistently, like, have a kid and then, like, draw Batman and go, like, this is a Batman movie, just show him a picture of Batman, because in the future I'm like, he's not going to remember it anyway, so I'm just not going to show him Batman for another 10 years, you know, like,
but for another 10 years maybe at some point he's not even going to realize it. He's not going to realize what he's doing, but he'll be like, oh yeah, a new Batman movie, look.
Yeah, look at
I drew this.
I think I just drew a whole Batman movie.
A new Batman movie.
A new one.
What do you mean? Oh, I guess I always thought this was a Batman movie.
This isn't a movie?
Huh.
I always wondered why it had the word move in there.
I always wondered.
Is that kind of annoying that movie is a moving thing?
Moving picture.
It's a movie.
That's what it's short for. Moving picture.
Yeah, motion picture, moving picture. Like, that's kind of annoying, though, that, like, when they first made that, they were like, it's motion picture. It takes a long time to say that. How about a movie?
How about the talkies?
Yeah, like a talkie, a movie. Like, that's so silly to me that it's such a basic thing. What does it mean? It's a thing that moves. It's a movie thing.
What about that? Sammy.
And, like,
Hammy.
The Beatles. The band The Beatles. when I was a kid, I thought it was like, oh, a bug, the Beatles. They just named it something silly. And then it's BEAT, because they have a beat. The Beatles. It's kind of annoying.
Originally, they were the Silver Beatles.
Is that true?
That is true.
I did not know that.
Much more than I should about the Beatles.
Huh. Why? Like what?
I know about all their fifth members.
Blood types?
3. Don't know their blood types. Could tell you every year that every album came out, which was really strange. The other day, I was like...
You realized this?
I'm taking a screen printing class at school, and this girl who was like a kind of a typical sorority girl made a print that was like, I get by with a little help from my friends, you know, and like some picture of her and her friend, and I was like, the image in the back kind of looked like a lava lamp, and somebody said, oh, that kind of looks like a lava lamp, so I guess it goes with the song. Like, I wonder what year that came out in, but it's probably, and I was like, oh, 1969. And they were like, what the hell? Like, what? You don't have your phone out.
Why is that?
and I was like, wait a minute, you didn't Google that.
You're not on the internet.
I was like, I'm sorry, I just know that Sgt. Pepper...
What kind of technology do you have in your brain?
I have a USB port in my finger that's attached to the computer that I'm sitting next to.
That's kind of a weird thing, though, that people would go like, I assume you must have looked that up just now, but I don't see how you did that. Why do you know that?
No, they got suspicious.
Right.
I was like, I took a course on the Beatles. I don't know.
So weird.
But, yeah.
It is weird that that's what our society has come to.
I was talking to, like...
people still ask me all the time, like, how to get to somewhere, and be like, you have a smartphone in your hand.
Google.
Look it up.
Look it up.
But you know what? That's kind of good. Like, I was talking to, who the fuck was it? Doesn't matter.
Ed?
I was talking to a woman. She was talking about how, like... Ed Hangsmans. Ed Hangsmans was talking to me about how, like, kids these days... It was very much like a thing about, like, kids these days... What
Ed Hangsmans.
Ed Hangsmans was talking to me about kids these days.
Yes. On the following days, Ed Hangsmans was talking to me about it.
Your Honor, I swear.
No, but so I was talking about, like, the concept of, like, kids these days with their crazy phones, they're so plugged in. And I was saying, like, I'm insanely plugged in. Like, I obsess about, like, I would never leave the apartment without my phone. If I leave the apartment without my phone, I feel, like, naked for the rest of the day. Like, I'm missing something significant. Like, I'm missing, it's as if, like, I left my glasses at home and I can't see. I need to have that. But... at least for me in particular, probably our generation at large, we were born in a time period before any of that existed.
Yeah.
So we at least developed the skills to, like...
We still understand what life is like without it.
We can navigate without a map. We do know that, like, I might need to, call Bobby instead of just checking on his Facebook.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like that's such a thing that children born in, like, the year 2000 even... probably don't really have any understanding of. Like, there are all those videos now of kids born in, like, 2009. Like, a little 3-year-old looking at a magazine and flipping through it, moving the pages, and then tapping on a picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trying to, like, zoom it. I've seen 3-year-olds pinch and zoom a piece of paper because they don't understand. And why would they?
Yeah.
They have no reason to understand
this is
that's
what
different.
Everything else does.
Yeah, exactly. This is what the rest of the world does right now.
Yeah.
Pinch, zoom, double tap. They have no idea, and it's going to be so fucking weird when there's an entire generation of kids that has never lived without a zany, crazy computer or a smartphone.
You know what's weird is that I see commercials now for kids' toys that are like, you used to have the thing where it was like kind of magnetized and you would draw on it. And then to erase it, you would just like pull a lever, and it would
the Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, not really the Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like black and gray. Now they have like full like high def, like a tablet that has like it's like a digital coloring book pretty much, and you have like full spectrum colors, high def, 1080p, and then you can plug your iPod or your iPhone into it and work off that too. And it was like, why would you give a 3-year-old?
I know. Better technology
not only a tablet, also your phone. Yeah. And like have them like work with that.
Crazy.
With sometimes, like coloring your phone. Like,
sometimes
that's so
I really
weird.
do think that like if I have a kid, maybe I'm just going to pretend it's 1986.
Right.
And just like go like, oh my god, this just came out, this is awesome. It's called an NES.
Yeah.
So like
what do you think?
The first video game my kid plays is Mario 3. Yeah.
And just every year, just be like, wow, look how fast it's going.
Just came
Cell phones are here. You're 15. You can finally use this interesting technology.
And every
it's
year.
a shitty little flip.
But you have to homeschool them and not let them out of the house.
Yeah, exactly. They never leave the house. That's basically
and then by the time
Plato's cave.
By the time they're 18, then they will be caught up
Yep.
to current technology and be like, well,
there you go. Now you're free to use smartphones and shit.
Yeah.
But then it's going to be 18 years in the future and technology doubles every year.
They're going to have Google Glasses.
So by the time that I give them the first iPhone, there's like a whole world out there where people, like, their heads are just in a bubble of technology.
Yeah. No, but you can skip
be in the WALL-E world.
Yeah, they're sitting in a bunch of fat assholes.
You can skip some years in there, though, because a lot of the doubles are just add-ons to current technology.
Yeah, you're
so
right,
it's like,
actually.
instead of being like, here's the version 1 iPhone, you can be like, okay, since iPhone and iPhone 4 are pretty much the same shit. Just be like, here's an iPhone.
Here's an iPhone 4.
Yeah, or just be like, iPhone 1.
5 years.
Next year, look, they made iPhone 4. They just didn't. 2 and 3, I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, actually.
You know, it's interesting, like a sort of extension of what you're talking about before, where, like, you know, people interface with the world based on the kind of the technology they use. It's kind of an interesting thing that I've been thinking about a lot, on how, like, awesome the human brain is, like that we treat tools as an extension of our own body.
Yeah.
So in the sense that if you're cutting a piece of paper with scissors, you're not thinking about how you're moving your hand.
No,
you're thinking about how the scissors are cutting the paper.
Yeah.
It's the same way where if you're driving and you need to stop, you don't think, oh, I need to push my right foot in right now. You're like, I need to brake.
Yeah.
And your body does it.
Yeah.
So what's weird now, and like same with video games.
That is very interesting.
As you're learning a video game, you learn that the thing that your character is doing, your avatar, is an extension of the body. You're not thinking about which fingers you're pushing.
Yeah.
You're thinking, I need to jump.
Yeah.
And that just happens.
You're right. Yeah.
So, like, that's weird, because now you're interfacing with the rest of the world, with the internet, in a really weird way. And when you say you're naked without your phone, it's true, because you're missing a part of your body. You're missing an extension of your body.
Physically makes you feel like you're missing something.
Yeah, that allows you to network with the
you're
world.
right. I'm not able to reach out without my phone. I cannot reach to you unless I have
it's
my phone.
It's like you're missing a finger.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm actually
This
stunted.
is weird. I know I used to work with this guy named Pete Chambers, and he's a really awesome musician, actually. If you want to go Google Pete Chambers music, I have no idea how to get to him. But he used to be a cabbie in Boston in like the 70s or 80s, and I guess back then, I don't know if it was legal, but you could kind of just choose your own hours as long as you want.
Oh, okay.
So he got a car, he bought a medallion for like $25 or something like that, when now it's like $100,000 or something ridiculous. I don't know if it's that much, but it's a ridiculous amount of money.
Okay.
And he said that he and his brother would share a cab. So he would drive for 24 hours, then his brother would drive for 24 hours, and they would switch off like that. So he'd drive for 24 hours, have a day off. 24 hours, have a day off. And he said that after like hour 8, you just kind of lose yourself.
Yeah.
And you start to be like, instead of being you're in a car, you are the car.
Right.
That makes sense, yeah.
And you just can't, because you're just you can't understand what it's like to be out of the car.
Exactly.
You know? And so he said that all the time he would just like become an amazing driver, because he felt like it was just natural to him. Like he knew exactly what to do, and like it was so weird.
Oh,
he
yeah,
told me a lot of crazy
absolutely
stories.
Do that. Like I wish I could. I definitely know that feeling.
Yeah.
Like I can. Like it really, like you're outside yourself almost. I feel like the best that I can compare it to is like writing, typing.
Yeah.
Like there have been times that like Bobby and I wrote together for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And there have been times that we've been writing together, and the conversation that we're having together as people, Bobby and I were able to communicate very well what end game we were trying to get to, but we still had to interact with the computer. But so there were times when like Bobby would be talking to me and I'd be typing, and all of a sudden like I'm looking at him and like my fingers are moving, and if you look at the screen, it's all right. And like it really became very much like the flow of ideas.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the same thing.
And even
like,
then, it was different. It wasn't like, okay, now put this down. It was just kind of us saying back and forth and acting things out, you know, and then it would come out.
It was just happening as we were conversing. Like you do get into that mode of things when you just pour yourself into it. And I guess at 8 hours in a cab, you'd have to. I was thinking about this. This is kind of stupid. It's not as interesting as that, but it is something I've thought of. Like in the movie, like a lot of like sci-fi movies, I feel like this happens a lot, especially in this probably the one that people can relate to the most or understand the most.
Rupert?
The movie, no.
AI?
No.
Matrix?
You might be able to get to it though. What sci-fi movie am I thinking of?
Predator.
I'm not going to tell you anything else. You're close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Alien?
Not the Matrix?
Alien.
Yeah, Alien. There's a part of Alien, or Aliens, where Ripley is in a giant mech suit.
They're dead, okay? Can I go now?
They mostly come out at night.
Mostly.
But so she's in a giant mech suit. And it's supposed to be like
whatever happened to that little girl.
A person gets in that, and then they just sort of like move their arms. They move. It's like being in like a giant like caterpillar truck thing.
Yeah.
And so like you move a couple of like pulleys, and then these giant mechanical arms that are like the length of your entire body pick shit up and move it. It happened in the Matrix. You just climb a machine that's shaped like a human, and you move stuff, and it moves the robot's arms and legs. That's basically what a car is.
Yeah,
a car is a mech.
Yeah,
it's just
that's why I'll
shaped
never
differently.
I'll
shaped
never
like a
understand all of like the fandom for like mech technology and how people say like it's inevitable. Of course, it's going to be what we have now, but like, why the fuck would we do that? That makes no sense.
So inefficient.
Like make a tank. A tank is it's a little box.
Yeah.
It's compact. It's super armored. Why would you create way more space to be shot?
More space, and then like more the pressure that goes on the joint of the knee,
and then
for a robot?
make it less mobile because you actually have to give it legs,
exactly,
and arms. That if it shoots an arm off, like, well, fuck, now I have no gun. Why not just put a gun here?
Yeah.
And have like a crane or something.
Keep it all low to the ground and compact, and just have shit peeking out of it.
You don't need to be able to pick stuff up if you're a mech. Like
little gunsies,
just blow stuff up.
Well, I mean, the human body is kind of like built for adapted life on Earth, and like hunting. Usually, it's like hunting, and
I would think like a lot of like
even then it's very inefficient.
Terrain, a lot of like reaching up and climbing and pulling up.
Like I think that
human body.
We have, through technology, become more efficient. That's why we needed to build tools and make weapons and fire and
right.
We
became an extension of our own evolution.
Yeah. So why when that's why like when we make robots, why are we going to make them look like people? Like that's so weird.
There's a more efficient form. Yeah,
way more efficient form.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to have everything is tied to my spine right now, which is a vertical, fragile thing.
Yeah. it's ridiculous to have to eat from the same tube that you breathe from.
Yeah.
That's a terrible design.
Well, but I don't think that we have to make robots eat.
Well, no, I mean, like, having our human design is very inefficient.
I'd like to point out, I was about to say to you before I realized how dumb it was, and why do we have to shit? But we're not designing robots that shit.
No. So well, we might design a robot in the future.
Maybe that's how they make little batteries.
Yeah.
D batteries.
Yeah.
And when they're sick, they make all those little like hearing aid batteries. Just make a ton of
pellets.
Yeah.
This is a weird
I mean, it was bound to get here. We started the conversation started out like pretty like
robots. Your brain makes patterns out of things. Shitting
has to come
shitting
up.
Out batteries
has to come up. It's come up every week for a year. Why would this week be any different?
True. Good point. Our year anniversary is coming up too.
It is. It is a year of having this show on.
Yeah, January 12th or 13th is Sunday, right?
So, yeah. So, we bought a week though by putting up the Batman episode. So we are going to hit 52 episodes, 52 weeks of the show. I think is going to hit in the beginning of the new year.
Yeah, but it's still going to be our anniversary. It's just going to be our.
Well, it was a leap year too, so it's a little complicated.
Yeah, you're right. It is complicated.
Fuck.
Who knows? Fuck that. Blows the whole thing out of proportion.
I found out that was it the Aztec calendar that were
the Mayans?
The Mayans.
Yeah.
They didn't have a leap year.
Is that right? So it fucks the whole thing.
It's going to be like 4 days later or whatever.
No, earlier. It might have happened already.
Oh,
so the world already ended?
It was Hurricane Sandy.
Well, think about it. 2,000 years divided by what? Leap years every 4 years?
Every 4, yeah.
What's that?
One day.
Oh, that's 500, right?
So
it's 500 days early.
500 years.
It already happened.
500 days early. Yeah, or it would have already happened. I saw a thing online. I guess you could call it a fan theory that the guy that made Gangnam Style. It shows him. It's like a comic.
Gangnam,
whatever. It shows him like looking at a picture of a bunch of Native Americans doing a rain dance, and a lot of it looked like what he did, like the one hand up in the air, like Carlton, like almost doing like a lasso motion. That's what it kind of looked like. And it shows him like thinking with a light bulb over his head. Then he starts doing it, and it shows pictures of people doing it all over the world. Everybody that's been making fan videos of that, and then it shows Hurricane Sandy.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
And you should play the Song of Storms.
Yeah, you're right. You should play the Song of Storms.
That is so funny.
And like, it's the kind of thing like that's so fucking stupid, but you can't disprove it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's so funny.
Genius.
And stupid.
Absolute genius. I don't know.
Oh shit. That's hilarious, man. I feel like In 2001: A Space Odyssey, the way that they dealt with the progression of technology, that they kind of just hinted at it. They said like, well, in the future, there was like one little part where, and this explained why in the end, I hope I don't spoil this for anybody, in the end, the guy turned into a little space baby, a star baby.
What?
2001: Space Odyssey.
Never saw it. Who turns into a baby?
Oh, you don't know?
It sounds cute. Something cute happen?
So the idea of it is that technology will progress so that we start to alter ourselves, and we have us and we have technology, then we become part of our technology.
Okay.
You know, so then we have spaceships around us and we have body modifications. Then eventually we will become the spaceships, because we will have the capability in us to be kind of like to be, because robots and stuff, if you imagine, could go through deep space.
Okay.
If fitted properly. So then it's progressing and saying that eventually it'll probably come to a point, if we survive, that we can alter our bodies enough to survive in deep space.
Okay.
And then if we just put a couple of rockets on our feet or hands, we can propel ourselves into space, and we will be the spaceships.
Okay, so like
we won't need spaceships anymore.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like self-evolution of technology, and
and then it progresses to like, eventually we won't need that either, and we can just have some kind of like more like energetic means of travel, and that we don't need our physical bodies anymore, and we can
I see what you're saying,
attune to like a light frequency or something like that.
Okay.
You know?
I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like, a lot of people think that evolution is us trying to become smarter and faster and shit. It's not what evolution is. Evolution is just responding to the world around you.
Right.
So if it does become that we are constantly traveling between galaxies, maybe over time something like that might happen to make it easier for us to do that. Yeah. But like, people think that evolution is trying to hit some sort of an end game.
They think that it has a will.
Like, let's say right now that like the sun extinguishes and somehow we don't die, we are going to... What?
We're gonna die.
No, I know. But like, let's just say the environment
the one or two of us that don't die go on to become the most efficient form of life.
Yeah, maybe they could. But like, so like, let's say that like the sun extinguishes and the seas rise. We didn't, like, people who think that evolution is trying to make us just like stronger and faster are going to be surprised when it turns out we are becoming more adept at like traversing water.
Yeah.
Living in water. Probably like not needing like vitamin D. Crazy shit like that. Like, to this no matter what the environment is, something is going to try to survive by just adapting to that.
A lot of people also say like, oh, so you're saying in a million years worms are going to have their own language? And it's like, no, that's not what we're saying, because people assume that human intelligence is the apex of evolution.
Right.
That like evolution is in going towards a point towards a human brain in every creature, and that's not true either. It's just survivability.
Worms will keep being worms because they've been good at it.
In a million years, maybe they'll have a brain, but they're going to look a lot different from worms.
I'd be surprised, and they're probably going to be still relatively similar to worms. Their station in life is exactly what they've been doing for a long time.
It'll probably be a giant worm.
If they keep doing it, they'll just be really good worms.
Yeah,
that's it. They're just going to be really impressive worms.
They'll be great at being worms.
Yes, that's about it.
Worms that eat dirt.
They're not going to start turning into people with like little fingers peeking out of their disgusting bodies at first, and then growing up.
Yeah,
that's not happening. I can't believe that there are people out there that actually like. Were we talking about? It may have been in the last episode when we were talking about people who are going like, "Oh, great, gays can marry. How about I marry a sheep?"
Yeah.
All right, marry a sheep.
Go ahead.
I don't care. Really why is that the logical next step?
Yeah, why do you want to marry a sheep?
Do you realize how stupid people are? I was listening to
That's why if anybody, like, I've discovered that if anyone makes a racist or sexist or homophobic remark or a joke, especially a joke, just say you don't get it, and then they'll have to explain it. And in explaining it, if they don't realize that there's no reason for their own hatred, then it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Because you just keep saying, I don't get it. And they'll say, like, well, because blacks are inferior to whites.
Right.
And you say, I don't get it. Well, because that's it. That's all I have. I don't know why.
Yeah, they probably do get to a point
say,
like,
well, if you don't know, why
I can't keep explaining my viewpoint because I don't know how.
Yeah.
There was a thing on Saturday Night Live, which is an awful show, by the way. Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Still watching?
Every once in a while I try.
I just stopped.
I had
years
a boyhood dream. I really did. Allie and I, when we were 17 years old, our plan was to write for Saturday Night Live and fix it. Never going to happen. No. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Before you get there, yeah.
I know. But, I mean, I'm also getting older and older, so I might not be their demographic, but I can't really tell what their demographic is, because they go from, like, semi-intelligent political commentary to the Miley Cyrus show. So I don't know who the fuck they think their audience is, other than people that just will be there with the TV.
Yeah, stare at them.
But anyway, every once in a while I check in. Louis C.K. just hosted it.
I thought that would have been hilarious, because Louis C.K. is really funny.
Bummer. Total bummer. Yeah. They only do like 2 or 3 actual sketches in a show now, by the way. They only do like 2 or 3 sets.
So are they super long or what?
The sketches feel super long, but mostly they just do a lot of like digital shorts. Oh, the musical guest is back. Now here's Weekend Update. It takes a good portion of the show. Here's one more sketch. No one really wrote it. But so they did their digital thing that they did this week was a parody of Louis C.K.'s show, Louis, where he was playing Lincoln. And so it was called Lincoln. And he's a stand-up comic. And
Does Louis C.K.
It's Louis C.K., yeah. And so he, the one thing that I liked was that as he's doing his stand-up, he's going like, I freed the slaves. It's a difficult thing to do. Do you know that? Do you know how difficult it was? Because you have to pretend that these people coming up to you that they want to keep their slaves, you have to pretend that it's a good idea, but you might not want to do it. Yeah, I know you like owning people. I know you like owning people, but I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. Come on, it makes sense. But maybe not do that. You know, you have to pretend. You have to try to be reasonable with them, and you can't reason with somebody that's that insane. So it's just going like, sure, no, I see your viewpoint. It's nice being able to whip them. But maybe try not doing it. Like, he has to like try to be diplomatic about it. Right. And that was the one thing they did all right, and even that was not that great.
Nah.
I don't understand that show anymore. I've tried to watch it many times, and I don't know what they're doing. And it seems like the sort of thing that it's got to be so easy to just like twist it a little bit, and it can probably be pretty good. But they're not doing it. I don't understand why nobody else has tried to. Like, I don't know why, like...
I'll tell you what I've been doing. I've been YouTubing Kids in the Hall episodes.
Oh my
hilarious.
God. So funny.
Generally, fucking great.
Those guys were hilarious.
Yeah.
Who is that? I've never.
Really? They were
early
Canadian.
90s.
Yeah. They were a Canadian sketch comedy troupe. Show. And they had these really fucking weird sketches that like didn't really mean anything.
Yeah,
but they
was
hilarious.
4 or 5 guys.
Yeah,
and they would like. In each skit, they would like most of them would dress like women a lot,
which
is
lot
weird, But they would just do the goofiest fucking. I remember from my childhood, one of the funniest skits that made no sense. It was 2 guys are in an office and they're at a meeting, and one has a cucumber seed in his mustache right here, and the other goes, "Dave, you got something here," and he goes, "Oh, I get it." He goes, "No." I get it? No. And he starts getting more and more extreme and starts like covering his entire face and then throwing things and screaming and be like, "Oh, did I get it?" And be like, "No, you didn't get it." And he keeps just like ripping his face around, and he finally gets it. And then the main punchline is he goes, "Oh, you got a stain here," and it zooms out and he's got an entire piece of pizza stuck to his shirt. And he goes, "What? Where? What?" And he's looking at himself, and then that's the whole thing.
The one that I remember was a little kid is with his mom and dad, and they're reading him a bedtime story, and then he says bullshit. The kid, like, they bleep it, of course.
Yeah.
And the mother goes, "Ooh, don't say that. I'm gonna have to wash your mouth out with soup." And the dad goes, "I think he means soap." And she goes, "Nope. My mom used to wash my mouth out with soup." And I remember, something else happens in the sketch, but whatever. The parents leave the room, they say goodnight, and the kid's rocking back and forth in bed, and he goes, "Bullshit. Soup." And that's how it ends. Fucking so weird, so funny. That was also the thing, you may have heard this, and if you haven't, it's just going to sound fucking weird. But there was a guy that used to walk around outside, and he would go, "I'm pinching your head," and the camera would just be of his hands, making it so that point of view is that like Bobby's head is right between my fingers right now, and I just pinch it. And it was like a thing that they did like 800 times, but it actually became relatively famous.
Yeah.
Do you think? Because I was just thinking about that, it made me think about Conan O'Brien. Do you think that there's a finite amount of things that a creator or storyteller or a comedian can say? Because Conan O'Brien's been around for, I don't know, almost 20 years now.
But Conan O'Brien has his own shtick and like reuses a lot of the same material.
But it's starting to not work anymore, and he's starting to be like somewhat irrelevant, which is a shame.
Same as Jack Black. Jack Black does the same shit.
But then
I don't care about him anymore.
But then you do get comedians that have been going for like. I mean,
no, those are just creative people. That's like we were talking about before. That Quentin Tarantino wants to retire because he said that anyone who gets too old eventually loses their creative spirit and produces bad quality stuff, which can be seen. Yeah, and I mean,
that's what Kevin Smith has been saying for the last couple.
I mean,
movies.
and like
that's true actually.
But then you get people like Scorsese and Clint Eastwood and like so many people that are still amazing and produce a huge volume of material that's still great quality, and they are very old people.
Do you think that to do that though you need to be able to play around with like your format?
Absolutely.
Because like Clint Eastwood has made a movie a year for 40 years, but he's made different genres.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Woody Allen has made crime capers. He's made dramas. He's made out and out zany like slapsticky
I think
comedies.
that what it comes down to is someone has a great idea for maybe one, maybe two movies.
Yeah.
And they get so famous that they need to make more movies, and then they just keep producing more of the same genre movie.
See Adam Sandler.
Yeah, or M. Night Shyamalan or whatever his name is. He produced 2 pretty good movies, and then after that he just keeps trying to do the twist ending, and then The Happening came out. Don't know what the fuck that was.
You showed me that one thing about hot dogs. That's all I needed to know.
It's so weird, man. It's awful. And it's like every movie he is getting more and more into himself and putting himself in the movies, but they get worse and worse because he's working on a formula that doesn't work anymore because it's the same movie. It would be like if the Scary Movie guys keep producing. Oh wait, they do.
They do.
They do that. Guess what? Those movies are fucking awful.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 1, hilarious.
What about musicians?
That's what I was going to say.
They have less room to play with format.
Well, it's very. No, I would definitely argue the other way.
Really? Yeah. No way. Let me give you my.
I think as long as they preface an album by saying like we tried to do something different with this, then it's fine. Yeah,
maybe you're right.
But otherwise,
it
seems to be the case that's like. This is weird. I don't know. This isn't as good as their old stuff, but if it's a completely different genre, then
yeah. Well, one of my absolute favorite bands for years is a band called Minus the Bear, and Bobby just told
Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, what did I say?
I'm not paying attention to you the whole time. I assume.
It's been an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Weird Al's my favorite musician.
Yeah.
But so Minus the Bear has been just like a really tremendously interesting band that like hasn't really taken themselves too seriously. In recent years, they've gotten pretty serious, and that was sort of surprising, but it was still working. Bobby pointed out to me that there's a new album out that he said sucks, and he was like, this represents the beginning of the end of Minus the Bear.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of them too. Really like all their music.
Great band. Yeah. I got it yesterday. I listened to it last night. And I'm weird about music anyway. Yeah. Me in particular, I don't really understand music. It's like it totally is outside me. I cannot comprehend it. I've listened to an album and hated it, and then come back to it, and it's become my favorite album in the world. So I always try to come back. I always try to repeat it and see if I can find out its core. But so I've now gone through that album a couple of times, and it's really disappointing, and it sounds exactly like the last thing they did. But
I just thought of a good lyric. Kevin is a space clown. So that's nice.
That's a very good lyric, Bobby.
Okay,
yeah, one of their lyrics. It was this band that was like incredibly interesting. Like, it's rare to feel this expensive, except, but next to a girl like her, it's impossible not to. I like that. That was one of the early things. And I learned
they had a song called "Pantsuit." Ugh.
Yeah, they had that.
That they used to not take themselves really seriously.
Right.
Yeah, they used to play
about
monkey knife fight.
Fame is an amazingly terrible thing for certain people.
Yeah,
there can be a huge.
No, they're pretty huge.
No way.
Yeah,
they're relatively.
I thought I had
popular.
to say like there's a band called.
No, they're pretty huge. Yeah, really? I mean, even by their first album, they were getting pretty big. Yeah,
at least on the Indian scene, not
Indian scene.
On the Indian scene, they were big in Bollywood.
Yeah, in Bollywood.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of soundtracks to the Bali version of Terminator 3.
Oh my god, that's amazing! Everybody look that up.
Please YouTube Bali Terminator.
It's incredible. They make a giant Terminator out of about 100 regular-sized Terminators.
And it's all the same, man.
Incredible. Yeah.
That's real.
Yes.
Yeah, YouTube.
That is real.
You can view the whole thing on YouTube.
That's no joke.
So, I mean, what I was thinking, and you know, I hate to bring up the Beatles again, but they had an amazing amount of musical energy, obviously.
Yeah.
And the reason why they were so interesting is because they came along in 1960 and they said, okay, we're going to take this rock and roll American, like all of these like black musicians in the 40s and 50s are doing this big band stuff, but we're going to turn it into a skiffle band format in Britain. And everybody was like, what the fuck are you doing? And they started playing, they simply covered their first couple albums, or maybe it wasn't even their official albums, were just covers, and they would just play them and people go crazy. And then they started to figure out, wait, this is a songwriting like format as much as anything else.
This is a guide.
Yeah. And so they started to write, and they wrote originally just what I would call straight pop songs, songs like "Love Me Do," "Can't Buy Me Love."
They were still great writers and great producers.
Yes, absolutely, extraordinarily talented. They just kept going, and they were like, okay, now what do we do? Now we've exhausted pop music, and their first what's amazing about the Beatles as compared to any other band is the volume at which they produced. Their first major album with the Beatles is 1963. Their last album, Abbey Road, 1969. That's 6 years. That was 13 albums.
Yeah.
Nobody produces that
crazy,
volume anymore.
That's crazy.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
And they experimented, and they got weird. They got the White Album. You've got Sgt. Pepper.
It is really weird that they went through that many like life phases though, because they became like the like drug addict, like long hair guys. It took 6 years for them to go through a lot more in their lives than a lot of people did.
Yeah, maybe they had a time machine or something.
Maybe that's crazy. Maybe they had that crazy hyperbolic time chamber.
And what I was going to say is that
maybe they're all Goku.
Maybe they just
maybe that's why the monkeys never got around, because they trained long enough to kill them.
Maybe.
I mean, like
a bunch of monkeys. Yeah. Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
It was all in preparation for the monkey apocalypse.
That's right.
That's why the Beatles were formed.
That's why and how.
But yeah, they said in like 1970, I heard an interview with maybe it was 71 with John Lennon, in which he's basically like, yeah, I mean, I'd love to go hang out with the guys again. I mean, they'd broken up, and you know, there's the things about Yoko Ono, but no, the reason why the Beatles broke up is because they were out of musical energy, and that's it. I mean, like they say like, oh, it'd be great to hang out with them again. They had no negative feelings toward each other. They were just like, I think I'm just done with them.
We did it.
Yeah, and then they all did solo careers, and like they produced some good music, but nothing as good as what they had produced before.
Yeah, and they just knew when to quit. Yeah, they knew when it was over. Yeah,
and I mean
13 albums is a
lot,
pretty large volume of music anyway. I think,
and with their discography, you can't really find anything comparable. I would argue, but I mean, but to me, the most interesting.
So there's an expiration date to creativity.
I think with groups like that, I think yes.
But even then, I don't think that. I don't think there's an expiration date to creativity. I think that certain people working together, you know, it gets stale. Or you have a great idea, and then you use that, and then that other ideas don't work as well in that same group.
Maybe.
This is the reason I really, really like Radiohead. Yeah. They're like my favorite band right now, because each album that they produce is a new genre.
Yeah, very, very different from that.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, maybe not the earlies.
Well, the early stuff, I would argue, is the same way as the Beatles. They took standard Britpop, like garbage, like Oasis and Blur, and they were like, okay, we're going to make that. 1994. Yeah. Then 1996, they say the Bends. That's getting a little alternative. Then 1997, OK Computer.
That was the first really
like,
crazy.
It exploded. Yeah. It was like we're gonna do shit no one's ever done. Huh. And then they.
Well, that's also they wanted to make like a Bohemian Rhapsody of an album, pretty much,
really?
And make it like huge and ever changing, and you know.
See, everything I've heard from Radiohead, I don't think there's a single song I've heard of theirs that I did not like. Yeah. I just never took the time to really get invested,
because you kind of had to listen to them in albums more than in songs. So
that's why I
like doing that.
There are certain albums of theirs that I specifically dislike because of the genre of the music that they play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I like doing that though. Like what you just said. Like you need to digest.
That's the only way I listen to music.
Like I've always felt like, and this is sort of like a more like romantic idea of enjoying an art piece.
You like to kiss it,
like hug it, kiss it, put it in the bath,
rose petals,
light candles.
Yeah, you want to dunk it.
You gotta set the mood.
Yeah, and then I like to have sex with the book. I like to.
I've had sex with many books.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite book?
What's the stickiest book?
Gross.
Well, I have many books that I dip in honey, so
okay.
Those
So
would be
that's what you meant.
because I think it preserves them, but I'm actually pretty sure it destroys them.
But like I've always thought to myself, and this is something that nobody can really do in practice because it's ridiculous, but I have thought about it. A book. I read a book. I read it beginning to end, like everybody else in the universe. When I listen to an album, I feel like I should listen to it beginning to end because they've composed it. They've created not only the individual songs, the way that you create an individual chapter.
They've pieced them together in a certain way.
They've created a body. They've created an entire work. And so to that degree, I feel like if I cherry pick singles, I feel like I'm doing an injustice to the album.
Yeah.
In the same way, like I would never pick up like, I don't know, I would never pick up
Barbra Streisand.
A good example of a book right here. That's a book of short stories. That's not going to do it.
It's actually going to undermine your point.
I would never.
The girl who kicked the happiness,
the horn hat. I would never pick up like Harry Potter book 3 and just read one chapter because that's a good chapter. You know, you can't do that. You have to enjoy the body of work.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's also impossible to do.
But, that's why pop music these days has kind of gotten a little muddled because people release singles because they write a single and then they decide they need to.
Well, that's also a huge point of pop music now is that singles sell more than entire albums.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Do people still make music videos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
They're
Where do they go?
I found this out. I figured it out, I think. Because Vimeo and YouTube now monetize all their videos.
Oh, really?
So if you go, and that's why there's ads at the beginning of every YouTube video.
Budgets got way down for them, though.
Oh, they're very low.
Yeah.
But that means that indie producers are kind of coming into the limelight now, and they're making their own videos. And so the more hits, the more likes and subscriptions you get to your music videos, you actually get paid for it now.
It is a very interesting time right now for any independent artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many more avenues that they're still difficult, but there's so many more avenues to get exactly your vision online.
The band Grizzly Bear. Do you know them?
No.
Yes.
So he does.
I don't know. I'm very musically
I'm going to talk
stunted.
to him then. So, the band Grizzly Bear. People are saying that at this point in their career, they are at the exact same point where U2 was in the 80s. Where they are selling out entire huge Madison Square Garden concerts everywhere, ton of radio play. They're huge. You know, they just released an album around the same time of year, except in the 80s, U2 was making millions, and they each make enough to pretty much get by.
Wow.
And it's like the industry is completely changed now, and that U2 is selling like I forget it was. I don't remember what album that came out with that made them huge.
I know what you're talking about, though. Like the difference is that in today's day and age, like I mean, I can't speak to the experience U2 had. I don't know shit about them, but I feel like previously it's been that you sort of have to compromise your integrity to get something out there because you probably had to go through like a number of producers, a number of agents, and it had to be marketable.
Yeah.
Right now we're at a time that like you can
do it.
You can try to cater your sound to the mass market. Yeah. But if there's something that you want to say that you don't know if there's going to be a market for, you can still just say it. You can write your album however you want. Exactly. You can write whatever book you want.
Which is the great thing about the internet with it. It's kind of made it's kind of like pinpointed the true artists that kind of do it for the craft.
But there's still a thing, though. There's
but usually also pop artists nowadays will be crafted by their label,
right?
You know, and say like, all right, let's give you this image. You know, you have these like Florence and the Machine. They're huge, but they were crafted by a label.
That band One Direction right now.
Their songs were created.
Band?
Their songs are created by producers, and then they have a face pretty much. And even then, they don't have an image. Even they are given an image and a name.
You know the band Fun. Who are huge now. 2 years ago, I saw them. They opened for like another indie band that I saw, and they were spectacular. And they're from members of the Format, which was a band a few years ago. Or the singer is, and their first album, which came out in 2009, was absolutely spectacular. I mean, I've listened to it probably 100 times. Like it's like almost orchestral in its ability to translate like narrative into rock song. Whatever, it's awesome. Their second album, is like 2 singles and a bunch of garbage. And I was wondering why that happened. I listened to it the first day it came out, and I was like, this is crap. Like, this is actually crap.
I saw them. They were on the Louis C.K. episode.
Yeah.
Well,
I could not...
Pull closer to your microphone.
I could not bear it.
Yeah.
I could not stand
I hated it.
Listening to it.
And I was like, what the hell happened? Honestly, what happened? Because this is not right. And I said, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll listen to it again. Listen to it again. Hated it again. Yeah. And what I found out, and this is, not that surprising, I guess, the producer who produced their second album, because he heard their first album and was like, this is great. We need to make it a little more marketable. It's the producer of
Change Everything,
My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, all of those like pop alternative bands from like mid 2000s. It's the same producer, and he molded them to be more marketable. So they're huge now. I'm sure they're happy, but like they compromised their musical integrity.
But I feel like compromise has to happen anyway.
It does,
because the idea with even like the internet model is the big thing. I guess is like, the cream rises to the top. Yeah. You can put out your vision out there without having to compromise it at all. And you know what? People, if somebody finds it, they're going to spread it to the next guy who spreads it to the next guy, and then he'll be known. He'll be fine. But I have a really dark feeling that there's a brilliant piece of work online.
Yeah.
There's an absolutely genius book that's written as an ebook. There's an absolutely incredible album that's out there that no one's ever heard of.
But that's the thing, that these things are known. Maybe it has a more limited audience, but they are out there and they are known by somebody.
Well, what's interesting is like that is actually where we were like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the connectivity.
Yeah.
But they were like, okay, how do we fix this? How do we make things known? That's where record companies came from.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And you would want to get hired, and it used to come down to like you'd actually walk into the office of the recording studio and you'd play them a song, and then the artist would say, okay, we're going to sign you to a contract. And like the reason being signed to a contract is big is because it's like, well, now
the world will get to
we're going to give your name to radio stations. Yeah. We're going to give your name to the newspaper. People are going to hear it because that's how they got information. But now we're getting information from everywhere.
Yeah. There's like an infinite list of artists.
So the record companies,
but even then, record companies are kind of falling back on their like iTunes sales. That's why they're making so many singles now, because they're it's 99 cents for a single, $3.99 for.
Well, I think more what he's saying is not
crank it out.
Yeah, I think he's saying that like those people are now the dinosaurs, and there's gonna be a new breed.
Right? No, exactly.
To reorganize.
I don't know exactly what's going on. Yeah,
I know, it's crazy. I was talking to somebody about podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Was it me? Talking about our podcast?
Yeah, I was talking about it for like hours a week.
Right. So you mean probably around like 4,500 hours?
Something like that, yeah.
Is that 45 hours?
45 hours, not 4,500 hours.
That would be a lot of hours.
Played it for 45,000.
But we never, I was thinking about
recorded every minute of the year.
We don't, our show's not like, it's 59 minutes, 59 seconds long, now it's ended. We don't put out 1 hour a week. We go over.
No,
there's probably like a solid like 55 hours of us online.
Yeah,
right
something.
And then factor in car friends and game friends, and there's so much shit of us to listen to. Do you know that we're once we hit 48 episodes, if anybody wants to start listening to us, it would take them 2 days nonstop of us talking incessantly forever.
Yeah. Well, not forever, for 2 days.
For 2 days.
Oh, that's right.
The opposite.
But so I was talking to somebody about podcasts.
In 2 days, if you want to listen to us, we will never stop.
In particular with podcasts, it's too accessible a format.
Yeah.
Like with music, like I said, I'm completely musically stunted. I would have no idea where to start creating an album. So therefore, you take me out of that market. I can never create music.
Right.
With podcasts,
if you have
a fucking mouth and a recorder and have a podcast, you just have to have something to say.
But even then, most podcasts, like I listened to, I was trying to listen to an interview with Tim Heidecker about how he hates Russell Brand yesterday, and I had to sit through. I sat through about 15 minutes of this woman speaking on her podcast, and it was the worst fucking thing in the world. And she was just so bland and slow and making awful jokes and just like so bad. And I just kept skipping forward to try. And 45 minutes later, I found Tim Heidecker. 45 minutes in, I'm like, this is fucking awful. I can't stand listening to this.
We are a small independent podcast.
Yeah.
If anybody tells me they have a small independent podcast, I'm not going to even bother.
No, I would listen to it. Yeah, I would listen to it totally.
Probably not.
But you wouldn't listen to yourself?
No. If I didn't do this show,
right,
and somebody who's exactly like me is doing this show, and I love our show. I fucking love our show,
man.
And they come up to us and they say, "I have a show called Will and Bobby Know Everything." I'm going to go, "Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I'll check it out. And I'm going to walk away. And I'm not going to intentionally be shitty or anything, but I'm probably not going to bother getting around to listen to it.
But you're crazy, man. But that's such a bad mentality. Like in that same vein, this woman's show is huge. She interviewed Tim Heidecker. It's like a huge show, and it was shit. I fucking hate the Smodcast. Yeah. I hate fucking Tell 'em Steve Dave. Those guys are fucking unbearable to listen to.
I love those guys.
And it's awful. The podcast that I listen to, like The Nerdist, that's a pretty big podcast, but it's still not like huge. Yeah. Or I listen to Sword and Laser, which is like a sci-fi fantasy book club. Butt. I listen to Sword in Butt, which is my old Xbox username, which got banned, motherfuckers.
Exactly. Thanks for listening. Why don't we get out of here? We've been going for like
I don't know what we were talking about.
It's time to go. That was a good gong. Fucking good conversation.
That was a good gong.
That was a ging gong goot gong.
And I'll tell you what.
Gangnam.
Yeah, it was gong gong style.
Ooh, that was so loud.
Yeah, way to go. All right, why don't you get us out of here, Mike?
All right. Thanks for listening to Will and Bobby Know Everything.
Thank you for being here.
I thank you for having me.
Just broke the format.
I know, whatever. We gotta break the format soon because I know you don't like me saying shit like this, but there's so many things that we can't tell you guys right now.
We should have been able to tell you guys like
so
3 weeks ago.
For weeks. There's so much shit going on in the background right now that I wish we could tell you, but we can't.
There's even bats flying all over the room, and I can't tell you about it. It's really uncomfortable.
Will still has his Halloween decorations up. That's what he means.
There's actually, I'm legally not allowed to tell you things about myself anymore. He got arrested.
He's a woman now.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike, for being on the show. Everybody go to willandbobby.com.
That was Will.
I'm Will.
This is Bobby.
Bob.
Hi. That's Mike.
I'm Mike. What's
up?
Guys, go to YouTube. We're Will and Bobby there, of course.
Type in YouTube poop. Link goes to dinner.
But we're youtube.com/user/Will and Bobby.
No, seriously, dude. That's the funniest fucking thing you'll ever do.
Yeah. But so we've got Car Friends, fucking hilarious. We have
Game Friends,
brand new show.
Game review show.
Game Friends. We have right now, as this goes up in probably an hour. We're recording this like an hour before I'm putting it online. Yeah. We have Car Friends. We have Game Friends is brand new. We've played Mario Kart 64. We reviewed Saw 2. It was horrible. No, it was good.
No, the show.
Who knows? You got to watch it to find out.
Yeah. Soon we're gonna review the new Tony Hawk game.
That's
right.
We're
gonna review the new All-Star game. We're
gonna play some Halo.
Plays Halo 4 and the original.
Why don't you guys go ahead and if you have any requests of things that you want us to play, anything you want us to review, give you our opinion of.
What we are also trying to do, we once a week. One of us picks what we think will be a horrible demo, and the other has to sit through it. That's how we review it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So send any recommendations or requests to willandbobby@gmail.com. It's going live on the YouTube, so stay excited. And thanks for listening, guys.
So far, we've only played games that are old.
Yeah, that's true. That is weird. Relevant stuff is also coming soon.
Saw 2 came out in 2010. Bear in mind. So if you haven't played it yet, you're lucky.
You really missed that boat.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, everybody. Good night.